Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling for another interview with a champion in our sport. He was a two-time NCAA champion, three-time finalist, four-time All-American for Oklahoma State. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike Sheets, I think you're the only person to beat both Dave and Mark Schultz. Is that right?
I don't know. I did do it, but I don't know if I'm the only one.
Well, your senior year, or let's see, 82, you lost to Dave Schultz in the finals, but you beat him, I think, a couple times that year. How'd you get the best of him? How'd you wrestle Dave Schultz in college and were able to have some success?
I wrestled him when I was a freshman, and he humiliated me. And I swore that wasn't going to happen again. And then my sophomore year, I think I wrestled him twice, and he just got closer and closer, just kind of figured out his technique and what he was good at and tried to slow that down and capitalize what I was good at. Beat him in the duel at home, and then beat him in the Big 8 finals. And then he won the one that counted.
What do you remember about that match? I think it went into overtime criteria. Like, how did it transpire? I've never seen the match.
Probably the one thing in that match, I took him down, he got away, and then he took me down right at the end of the first period, and that was probably the deciding factor. It was 4-4-1-1 back then. It was, you went down the list of criteria, and whatever it was, he got called for stalling. He hooked an ankle in the 30 seconds he was on top, and tight waist, and hung on. Got called for stalling, and so the criteria was he got an escape, and my point was earned on a stalling point, so he won the match.
Well, since you had that unique perspective of wrestling both, what was it like wrestling Dave, and then what was it like wrestling Mark? How were they different?
Well, Dave was, what would you say? As far as strength, he didn't look as strong as Mark, but he was really strong. I mean, for looking at him and then grabbing a hold of him, he was unusually strong. His technique was probably a little different. He probably studied the sport more than Mark did, but Mark was athletically more gifted, obviously. And Mark was, his balance and speed was, along with his strength, was probably a little different than Dave's.
When you were training for the 88 Olympics, you and Kenny Monday had a lot of battles. Describe those. I've heard that you guys would go so hard that you carried the wrestling into the showers.
Well, we did that in college. I mean, that was the training in college. But the 87, 88 year, they were remodeling Gallagher Hall to make Gallagher-Iba Arena, and we actually worked out in a middle school gym. The whole team did that year, and no, we had some pretty good battles. It was a lot of fun. And in college, yeah, we'd wrestle into the shower, and it was one of those things. I'm not quitting if you're not quitting. You know, you'd end up against the tile wall on the back side of it.
And then, if I remember right, didn't you guys wrestle in high school? It was his only tie.
Yeah, we tied at the duel at Tulsa, Washington, and then Kenny beat me in the finals of I think it was a Yukon tournament. He beat me 1 point.
So when you think about this, like Kenny Monday's only tie was to you. He was undefeated, but had that tie. You guys are teammates. You guys wrestle, and then how does it turn out? Your offspring wrestle. Like, I mean, how crazy is that Wyatt's wrestling Quincy in college? I mean, that's just it's beyond what you can imagine, isn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't. It was a made-for-TV movie, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that they both excelled enough to be on a D1 team and then actually compete at the same weight.
What's your feeling like when you watch Wyatt wrestle? Quincy
Oh,
Munson
it's
stuff.
sick. Well, anytime I watch him, I'm sick to my stomach. I asked my dad, I'm like, did you get nervous when I wrestled? And he goes, I hated it. What my dad's reply was, I hated it. He said, I was glad when you were done. And not that I'd be glad when he's done, but I have those feelings. I have no control. I never felt that way when I was wrestling, but to watch your own offspring do it, it's a little personal. Yeah, it's fun.
How'd you develop your ride? That's what you're known for, is you were just brutal on top. How'd you get so good on top?
Because I wasn't very good on my feet, and I had to have an advantage. I mean, I developed to get a little better on my feet, but growing up, I went to, I think it was, I don't know if it was a Wayne Wells and Mickey Martin camp, or I went to an OU camp with Ed Culver, who ended up playing football at OU. But I went when I was young, and I learned the legs a little bit, and then I just learned how to hold people down, and eventually learned how to turn them.
And then, what's the art to being good on top? Like, can you give us your trade secrets?
Yeah, practice. That's it. It's. I really feel like it's more attitude than it is actually. Most people don't want to put out the effort that it takes to keep somebody down. But it's kind of like a mat return. My rule is you mat return a guy 3 times, he's not coming up. But you don't mat return him the first time, he's going to pop back up. You do it again, he may pop back up. You do it one more time, he's done. So little rules like that I keep in my mind, that it's like, you are not getting away. And if I hold you down long enough, then I can get a leg in. If I get a leg in, then felt like I had the upper hand.
Could you ride and turn Mark Branch if you wanted to?
Not today, but yeah, probably whenever I was in college. When I was as good as I was, or at my best, I think I probably could, or I feel like I could. Maybe I couldn't, but in my mind's eye, I could see myself doing it.
Did you work with him a lot on that position?
Mark came to camp. Mark came to camp and learned technique from me, which unbeknownst to me, years later, when Mark and I became friends, that it all came to fruition, that's actually where he learned it.
Okay. And
yeah.
Are you pretty good friends with him still?
Oh yeah. I talk to him occasionally, and then we used to have a trail ride where Branch and Pat Smith and Mark Smith and Coach John would come sometimes. His family, our kids would go, and we'd camp out and ride horses, and I'd drive a wagon with my mules and hang out for about 3 or 4 days. So yeah, spent a lot of time together.
Didn't the Gibbons brothers come to that a couple times?
Yeah, the Gibbons brothers came. Jim and Joe came a couple times, and then so we called it national. It was a national trail ride, and then we got Cammy Barzini, who's a UFC grappling coach. Probably the biggest name guy that he's coached is Robbie Lawler. But anyway, Cammy was at OSU, so we talked Cammy into coming, which he's not an outdoor guy, but Cammy came, so it became the International, because Cammy was from Iran. So we called it the International. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Way back, I mean, we're talking about after the fact with wrestling, but was wrestling kind of a natural fit for you right away?
Yeah. Actually, when I was in 4th grade, my first coach was a Golden Gloves boxer. He brought flyers to the elementaries, and he learned from a book. from Bobby Douglas's book. He had polio. He was a Golden Gloves boxer, had polio, but he had a love for the sport. Learned it all out of the book, and was a hell of a disciplinarian. And he preached about being in shape and going the distance. And that's where it pretty much came from.
What do you remember about Oklahoma State wrestling in the early 80s when you were competing?
Well, we had a heck of a team. My junior and senior, sophomore year, actually, we had a really, really good team, and actually had a shot at winning it probably in 83 and 84. Just a tough room. I mean, it was probably the most miserable 6 months of my life were my first 6 months there, just from the standpoint of getting the heck beat out of me daily. I mean, my first workout was with Stephen Barrett and Leroy Smith. Both of them were national champs. Stephen was getting ready to leave to go to Europe with Athletes in Action, but he was tough. So I had my first workout with them. My roommate was Mark Perry, senior, and I would come back to the room and my head would look like somebody taking a stick to it. And Mark would say, "How'd practice go today?" I go, "How the hell does it look like it went?" "Not very good."
Well, if I remember right, in 84, you guys took it to Iowa. You guys beat them 24-6, and you guys were the #1 team in the nation going into nationals. What was the vibe like at that Iowa duel when they came to Stillwater and you guys beat them 24-6?
And I've said this before. It was awesome, but I've said this before. In the one of the greatest moments, and I was there when Mona Smith beat Santana, which was unbelievable noisy in the Big 8 finals. So probably one of the greatest moments in that I can remember in Gallagher Hall was when John Smith head snaps Trezino to win the match with no time on the clock. I mean, he head snaps him, referee awards 2, and the buzzer goes off. I think Carl Lyons beat Pete Bush that night. I mean, it was we were on a roll. I don't know. They were flat and we weren't. It was just a hell of a night. It was all in our favor. And I about got beat, actually, by Kistler. Yeah, I think I beat him by 1 point. It was he was tough. He was big. He was big guy. He was tough.
Is that a dual meet people bring up quite a bit and want to talk about?
I don't, not a whole lot. I guess since we took second, nobody brings that one up much. When I was a sophomore, the night I beat Dave Schultz the first time, that one gets brought up because it was the OU duel and Mitch Shelton pinned Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and that place got pretty loud that night. Now that one gets brought up quite a bit, but the Iowa duel, not so much.
Tommy Chesbro got fired after that 84 year. Do you think he deserved to be let go?
He was coach of the year. No, he didn't deserve to be let go. He was national coach of the year. I mean, he didn't. He was a good coach. He was good. He was a technician. He loved the sport and continued to learn from it and try to improve it. And maybe to a fault, maybe a little bit too much technique and not enough banging heads. But he was a great coach.
I've heard that he would go excuse himself in the bathroom and puke before OU meets. How true is that?
Oh, hey, I'm gonna tell you funny, when my first OU duel, which I knew I wasn't gonna wrestle. I just suited up, and I knew I was not the guy. So I don't have a worry in the world. I'm just hell, I'm just a warm body with a uniform on. And Mark Perry and I were going out. He wasn't going to wrestle, but he suited up. And we were going out the pass gate. How'd that work? We were going out the pass gate. We were selling tickets, and then we were coming back around. Anyway, we go downstairs, and I hear Tommy gagging. And I was like, what in the hell's going on? I'm like, I hear him gagging. I'm like, Perry, what, is Coach sick? Hell no, he's nervous.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Did he articulate how important that Bedlam duel was?
You could just tell that the Bedlam was important. I mean, I don't know if he really articulated it, but you could just tell the importance and the training preceding that duel. You could tell that it was a big deal. And I didn't know it was a big deal. Hell, I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but you're talking about a country bumpkin that shows up there, and we come out of practice, and Mark and I are walking out, and there's people. This is on a Friday night, Thursday night, Friday night, whenever the duel was the next night. And there's people sitting on the damn sidewalk all the way around Gallagher Hall. And I'm like, Perry, what the hell are these people doing? He goes, they're waiting in line for tickets. I go, tickets to what? He goes, the duel tomorrow night, you idiot. I'm like, huh? So first come, first serve. They didn't start selling tickets till the day of. And this is at 6 o'clock at night. People are already laying on the concrete, got sleeping bags. Probably at that time, there was probably 300 or 400. I mean, ridiculous. I was like, and here I was naive to how big a deal it was. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I was just naive. And I'm like, what are these people doing? Hell, they're waiting in line for tickets. So, yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Did that add to the nerves for you?
Well, not that first duel.
Yeah.
And by the time the next one came around, I won. So, no, I was good. I was good. I kind of liked that, having that home crowd advantage, and it was worth a couple points to wrestling Gallagher Hall. Have you seen the movie Foxcatcher, and did you like their portrayal of you? Yeah, I saw it. I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. You know, I don't think not much about it. I kind of wish they just showed Topeka 2 weeks earlier, and then showed Pensacola. But oh well.
Did you like the movie?
Yeah, I thought it. I mean, it's a little gloom and doom. I hate to say that, but you know, the subject matter is pretty gloom and doom. I mean, for Dave to lose his life doing something that he loved, and the guy's basically a nut, which I felt like, you know, he was Foxcatcher and I wrestled for Sunkist, and I could be at a tournament, and where I come from, if you know somebody, you say hi, whether you like them or not, you know, just courtesy. And I could walk within 6 inches of John DuPont, past him in the gym in Las Vegas at the Open, and I'd say, how you doing? And he'd turn his head and look the other way. I'm like, what an idiot. I mean, I didn't know him anything, but I guess I was the enemy.
What made you want to keep competing that long? I mean, did you feel like you had a real shot at making that Olympic team? Of course, you won matches there, so you did, but did you feel like you were at the peak of your game there in '88?
Well, what happened is I started vet school, and I wrestled for 2 years, but I'd wrestle in some tournaments off and on. I didn't really train while I was in vet school, but in the summertime I'd work out with different guys at camp and whatever. But and I'd gone to like a Pan Am championship, and here and there I'd wrestle. But I was doing camps, but actually the administration at vet school called me in because I'd wrestled in some tournaments and had success. called me in. They said, "Hey, Mike, if you want to take a year leave of absence, we'll grant it to you if you want to train for the Olympics." And I was like, I'm good. I'm going to vet school. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm just doing this to have something to do in the summer between camps or whatever. So I get a phone call, I guess it had been the summer of '87, to go wrestle in the sports festival. I'm like, they go, "Yeah, where are you going to be? We'll send you a ticket. You can fly out and wrestle in the sports festival, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, you know what? I'm open that weekend. Go ahead. I'll be in wherever I was. So I fly out there. My first match is Rico Chiapparelli. I go out there and he pins me in about 20 seconds. I walk off the mat. I walk straight to the payphone, call my dad, collect, and I said, well, I'm sitting out of vet school. These guys can't beat me. I'm not ending like this. This isn't happening. And that's what basically sparked it, is that me getting my ass pinned sparked me to say, you know what? I am going to take them up on that offer. I'm going to train, and I can do this.
So you trained that full cycle from '87 until the Olympic trials.
Yeah, and I basically did train for 2 years. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and that's what I tell people is, if you got a goal, you got a short, small window to reach that goal. Hindsight's 20/20, but I would have stayed competing through '88 and then gone to vet school.
So from that '87 to '88, what was your competition schedule like? Did you get some tournaments before the Olympic trials?
Yeah, I went to Russia, to Tbilisi, went to Roger Coulomb, I think was the name of that tournament, in France, and then went to Cuba. I think they had 2 tournaments there. We had the Pan Am, and then they had another Cerro Pelado, I think was the name of that tournament, and then wrestled in the World Cup. Yeah, I've got quite a bit of competition.
And then after '88, it was just over. You decided to just move on to being a vet?
Yeah. I washed my hands of it for quite a while, really. I was kind of bitter over the end result, but I mean, it is what it is. Yeah.
So when you say you wash your hands of it, did you not like wrestling, or you just wanted to step away?
I was a little bitter, so I didn't go to a duel. Here, I was living in Stillwater. I don't think I went to a duel for the last 2 years I was there. I was just kind of bitter. I was mad at myself, really, for maybe the choice that I didn't sit the 2 years and compete. But that's water under the bridge. But a few years later, I was like, I'm back in it. I love it. You don't do something that long and not love the sport.
You're a vet now. How does wrestling help you in that profession?
Well, nobody can outwork me. I've had a lot of associates, and I don't expect them to work that hard, but I lose a lot of them because I think they feel a little guilty that they don't either choose not to or try to, and find out it's not that glamorous, and I tell them all too when they get there. For instance, had one, he goes, "How come you don't take a day a week off?" I said, "Make sure you get paid." I'm not turned to, I like what I do, and that makes it a little easier for me.
What's it like being a vet? I'd have no idea what that profession's all about.
You got good days and bad days like any other profession, but typically for me, we do surgeries in the morning. Yesterday, I do a work to sale barn, which is preg checking cows and IDing them, but later in the day, took a horse to surgery that was a crypt orchid, which his testicles hadn't descended, so you got to go in their abdomen to get them, or the inguinal canals. Just a lot of variety.
What do you think made John Smith great?
John, he was just mentally tough. I mean, he just refused to. He hated to lose, and he refused to not work. I mean, he was going to work. He worked his butt off. I mean, I'd say it'd be hard pressed to find somebody that worked as hard as he did. I mean, I know he'd go up at night and drill in 87, 88, late at night. If he went fishing with somebody, he might, if they weren't catching fish, he might work on stance and motion in the boat. They weren't, I mean, the guy was an animal. He just did what it took to get where he was.
So you were a senior when he was a true freshman. Did you guys bond right away?
Yeah, because I was friends from Leroy and Mark, so I knew the family good, and actually he was my bunkmate on the road. Yeah, he was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Of course, you have Wyatt there, but what's your time going there? Do you get up to practices? Do you watch a little bit up there?
I had never watched. I don't think I've watched a practice since Wyatt's been there. It's about a 2.5 hour drive for me, so I'll go up to the duels, but no, I don't go up there and bother them.
How much longer do you want to be a vet?
I guess until I can't do it. I don't know. I surely got another good 10 years in me.
Because how old are you now?
I'm 57 right now. I'll be 58 this year.
Well, let's go to 70. Why don't we just count on that? Let's just get you on the records. You're going to go to 70.
Well, I can do that. My dad's 75, and he's still a vet, so I could probably do that.
Can your dad outwork you?
Probably. That's probably where I got my work ethic from him. Yeah. And it was just reinforced in wrestling.